Welcome back to Just Scribble. Today I want to show you how I make a folder to hold thicker notebooks in my traveler's notebook on the strings. So when I did my Outlander unboxing for my B6 folio, I showed you guys briefly the folder that I was using to keep my Stology in my B6 Classic Fraser. And so I made this folder, and the Stology slips into the pockets so that it can be on the strings, and then it makes a nice, perfect fit. And I can use thicker notebooks in my classic notebooks without putting the actual notebook on the strings, so I'm not compromising the spine or risking tearing the cover or pages of the actual notebook. Sometimes, even in a deluxe, like my beautiful Earl Grey from Chic Sparrow, I still want to be able to keep a thicker notebook in it, even though I do have some folio options to use. And in the deluxe, it will actually, take that out, it will actually fit in the pocket. So you can stick it into the secretarial pocket and use your thicker notebook. This is my Naname Paper B6 Slim Cafe Notes. But I don't really like that as much. I don't like how it sits in the notebook, and it's not as secure because there's nothing actually holding it in. And it's also not centered into the notebook when this is the only thing that I'm carrying in it. So I wanted to take out my dashboard too, so we have room to work. I wanted to make a folder for my Naname so that I can carry it in my Earl Grey when I'm not carrying it in one of my Sojourner B6 folios. And so I figured this was a good time to show you guys how I make the folder. And so we're gonna make one real quick for my B6 Slim. The process is gonna be the same no matter what size you're using, but you may have to change your materials out slightly. Other people do this too. I'm not the only one. I didn't create this technique, but I do it slightly different because I actually use folders, file folders, to do mine. And the first one I did, the one that I have in my Fraser that I showed you just a minute ago, this one actually came from file folders that I got in the dollar section of Target. So they're actually quite nice, and they came in cute colors and patterns. And so it was a good use of an inexpensive folder. And this folder is part of a set that I bought on Amazon. I'll link the folder below, or the folder set below, so that if you wanted to snag some, you could too. And I just think they're really, really pretty. So I thought it would be a nice cover for this guy. And so that's what I'm going to use. And you could use cardstock, you could use like a really nice wrapping paper if you wanted, depending on how much extra tape you use to secure it. You could even just use a decorative paper. It's really kind of up to you. But I like the file folder. It works well for me. It's inexpensive, it's thick and sturdy, and it's always kind of glossy, and so everything slides nicely into it. So you need that and a paper cutter. You could also use a rotary cutter if you wanted, or scissors even, but the paper cutter is easier and faster to me. I use my trusty Martha Stewart bone folder because although it is a bone folder, it also has a scoring part, and I'll show you why I use that. It is not something you would have to use, but I found with the file folders, it actually is quite nice. And then you need tape. I'm using packing tape. This is my go-to, and a ruler, any kind of ruler, so that you can measure your notebook. So I'm going to move the cutting tools out of the way for a second. So this notebook is a B6 Slim. It is 7 inches tall by 4 1/4 wide, and it is 1/2 inch thick. And so we're going to make the folder a little bit taller than the actual notebook so that we have room to slide in. And then you're going to make the sides to fold in to make the slip pocket any size you really want. You don't need that much. You could do it 1 inch, you could do it 2 inches. I think in the one that I made before, made it 3 1/4. That was actually just the width of the folder that I had, so it worked out well. I could do this folder, this particular folder, because of the notebook size I want. I could use it this way, or I could do it this way and use the bend that's in the spine. But I don't want to waste any extra so that I can make more, so I'm going to cut this in half so that we're using only one side of it. So we're going to do that real quick. This is my favorite paper cutter because it has a guideline on it. It has this like little metal, I don't know if you can see it in there, this little metal line in there, and it allows you to line things up and make a straight line. I'll link this paper cutter down below as well in case you want it. All right, so now we have just one piece of folder, and we're going to cut it so that it is a little bit more than 7 inches tall, so we have enough room. And you'll see that we have plenty of room to make a little pocket out of it this way. If I wanted more pocket space, I would have needed to go the other way, but there's enough space, it doesn't require that much. So I'm going to cut this. It's taller than 7. This is 7 right here. And so I'm going to make it about 7 1/4. And I'm going to slide down. And then I know that this notebook is 4 1/2 inches wide, or 4 1/4 inches wide and 1/2 inch and 4 1/4. I know that I don't actually have to cut this down any narrower to fit, but if you had excess, you would want to add up the dimension across plus the spine plus the dimension across on the back, and then add the distance for your pockets. Since I don't need to cut it this way, I'm not doing that, but I am going to score it. This right now is 11 1/2 inches wide, so half of that is going to be 5 3/4. So I'm just going to put a little dot. This is solely so that I can score it evenly, because what I'm going to do is I am going to score it so that it wraps perfectly around my notebook and makes a little spine. So I know that the spine of this notebook is 1/2 inch. So if I line up my dots, and I add 1/4 on each side, that will give me a spine of 1/2 inch. And so I just run that down, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side, my 1/4. I am right-handed, so I should have turned this over to do it. It would have made it easier. All right. So now you can see I have these little score lines, right? That enables me to fold it and make a spine. I like this just because it makes it easier for me to keep the notebook in there nice and pretty. And so it makes a little book cover for it. See? So then the next thing to do is to fold in these sides. And I found that it's easiest if I score that too. So I just take the book and lay it there so that the edge of the spine lines up with my scoring that I did here. And then I just make a little bitty score mark at the top and bottom, just so I have guidelines. And then I line them up again with my ruler. This is a quilting ruler. You guys have probably seen me use it in videos before. I will link to it below, but you can buy it at Joann Fabric and other craft stores. I have tons of them in different sizes. I love them. I think that they are great. So you'll notice because of the way I did this, I don't have but an inch of little folder flap. I may wish that I had done it the other direction and done 2 inches, and if I do, I'll just make another one, but it'll still hold it securely. So now I have a little cover. So if we test it, and I put my book in before we tape, and I put my book in, it fits perfectly. And it has a little jacket, and it's so pretty. All right, so then the next step is just to tape this. So I use packing tape. It's strong, it's easy, and I have tons of it. And so we just lay it down, and then fold that in. And I usually do a couple of pieces just so that it's secure. I'll make one that's just slightly shorter than the actual book to kind of hold it in place. Dog hair. And so it makes this little pocket. So we'll do the other side. Sorry for the screech, the negative aspect of packing tape. Although I will say that this packing tape gun doesn't make as loud of noise as some of them do. The one in our office is terrible. And you can put as much packing tape on here as you feel necessary. If you're using gift wrap or like decorative cardstock from Michael's or Joann's, it may not be as strong as this. So you can actually packing tape the whole thing to add more structure. One of the reasons I like the files is I don't have to do that because it's much thicker. So now we have our notebook with little slots. You can adjust to make it be 2 inches, 3 inches. You could go all the way if you wanted to, but I find that going halfway is really kind of the max you want to go because it's easier to get your book in and out of and load it up without messing it up. So the only other thing that I do is I cut a little notch in the top and in the bottom just so that the elastic fits nicer. Carefully fold it and cut a little notch. I'm not folding it hard to make a seam, just folding it so that I can get my scissors in there. So I made top notches, top and bottom. So if I take my Earl Grey and I slide, tighten my elastics real quick. If I slide this in, then the elastics sit inside there and they're not pulling on it and they're keeping it super, super secure. This thing isn't going anywhere. Then all I have to do is slip my notebook into the little pockets, and it is secure. So then it looks like this when I open it up. I can use it, write in it. It's on the elastics, it's centered. It looks pretty, like it has a dashboard in it, and it's awesome. The tools that I used were a ruler, my bone folder that has a score, some packing tape, and my paper cutter and scissors. And that's it. Super, super easy. You can do it with lots of different papers. You can adjust to different sizes of notebooks. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found it useful and helpful. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. If you want me to do more videos like this with little hacks and tricks, let me know. If you have questions about any of the tools I used in this video or how I did this, just shoot me a message below and I'll get back with you. And check back soon for more videos. And in the meantime, don't forget to just scribble.